America's man's man. What's the difference between religion and art? I was just at a worship service of one sort or another, and I complimented the pastor, the reverend, the priest on my amazement at how he was able to time the second verse such that by the time the second verse was over, because there was no in this particular service or mass, there was no organist or pianist to kind of fill in the blanks. I complimented him on his ability to time the second verse such that when the second verse of the congregation singing the closing hymn, he wound up precisely choreographed at the back of the church, ready to shake hands, eliminating the those kind of awkward pauses if they were to maybe finish only half the verse and he's kind of standing there waiting for people to arrive. And I told him, I said, that's quite an art that you did that as soon as the second verse ended, wow, you're right there ready to finish out things at the back of the church. And he replied, you hit the nail on the head. He said, liturgy is art. Many people today sit in buildings which are called churches, some of which, particularly in New England, are flanked with rainbow flags which mock the hand of God. And they're not there to be edified. They're there to be entertained because they don't know any better. On the other hand, there are people who attend both movie theaters and theater services, which view edifying content, or in the case of live theater, are a part of a one-of-a-kind event, which edifies their soul more than some of those so-called churches that are flanked by rainbow flags ever could. So what's the difference between church and entertainment? As the pastor said, you hit the nail on the heart. On the head. Liturgy is art. So what's the difference between entertainment and church? Is there any even? Even in churches where there's no music, there's no rock concert to speak of, no light show, you could argue that the pastor, the teaching pastor, is there to merely entertain you. At the end of the day, there's really only one difference. C.S. Lewis, the author of the Chronicles of Narnia, reminded us that there's that every decision we make brings us closer to heaven or to hell. So really the difference between good and evil, between church and amusements or mere amusements or ungodly entertainment, idolatry or idle words, idle distractions, is that one of the two takes us away from God, takes us closer to hell, and the other takes us closer to heaven. Matter of fact, every message, every medium in our life takes us closer to God or closer to hell. So the church is something like that, the people in our lives, and we have to make calculated decisions in order that we may be thus blessed by messages and people that we surround ourselves with that bring us closer to God and not closer to the other place. And that, more than the medium itself, perhaps, and I have to qualify that, but just for our purposes, that's what really determines whether we're privy to or part of an entertainment experience versus a worshipful experience. I'm America's man's man.